All right, welcome all to the 12th episode, number 12 already, of the Preserving Freedom podcast. Before we get started with today's veteran, a reminder to all, appreciate the support. Hit that like button on YouTube, follow along, share. These veterans all have amazing stories, and we have to continue spreading their word and never forgetting their selfless service and sacrifice that they have given to our great country. Some people answer the call once in their life. Others spend their entire life answering it. From a small town just outside of Green Bay, Wisconsin, raised in the shadow of a firefighter's helmet and the legacy of a World War II soldier, today's guest didn't just grow up hearing stories of service. He became one. At just 17 years old, while most kids were still figuring out who they wanted to be, he raised his right hand. Not for recognition, not for comfort, but for something bigger than himself. 2 deployments to Iraq, convoys through dangerous territory, a night in 2006 where everything changed in an instant. IED, small arms fire, chaos, and a team that refused to break. And when the uniform came off, the mission didn't end. Because service isn't something you clock in and out of. It is who you are. 20 years in the military, 17 years as a firefighter, running toward danger while others run away. This isn't just a story about war, it's a story about legacy, about brotherhood, about answering the call again and again, no matter the cost. I'm Jason Foster, and this is the Preserving Freedom Podcast, episode 12, Answering the Call, a life of service on 2 fronts. And today, we honor a life built on service. Trevor, always great to see you, my man. How you doing?
Doing good, brother. How are you?
Always a great day to be an American. So,
yeah.
Be honest with me. Who got in trouble for bringing the Mark 19 on mission that night?
I had a feeling you were going to ask that question. That comes up every now and then. No one really, I think, truly got in trouble for it, but there's some pretty good stern talking that some of the higher-ups had. Like, I was fine because I'm just an admin guy. I filled in on the seat, so I was steered clear of all of it. But I remember when we came back, as I started meeting Schurmeister right away, he saw me. I was walking back to the ops room, turning my weapon in, and he's like, "Hey, welcome back, Mr. Combat Action." I'm like, "Hey, talk about a little bit." I'm like, "So you heard about it?" I was like, "Oh yeah." And so did hire. I'm like, "Oh boy, that can't be good then." And he's like, "No, but I can't remember if it was CENTCOM or C-Flick Command, some higher ups when we shot the Mark 19 on Baghdad area." So obviously red flags are flying right away, and they think the worst, but for us, it actually worked out perfectly.
Yeah, that's good. And we'll get into that a little more here. What is one, this could only happen in the military moment you'll never forget? Do you have one?
I guess the only thing I can think of it, I don't even want to say like the punishments, but like the corrective training we do sometimes, or like the pranks we pull on each other. It's just stuff you don't think of. It's just all the world. Like we had a guy one time at Fort McCoy. We're on the field, at that near the grenade range, and he's like, "I gotta go to the bathroom." He goes piss next to this tree. Well, there's a formation right there going on next to him, and it had females in it. He didn't know that. So next thing you know, his squad leader had him going around the whole hillside, touching every tree in sight, and yelling "safe" or "not safe" to pee by. And you can hear him on the opposite side of the hill, still touching trees, yelling "safe" and "not safe." They went on for like hours, and it was like, holy shit, man.
Oh, man.
But there's like some other ones too, like a prank we pulled on our first sergeant. He was home on leave on a second deployment. And our recon guys start storming a prank on him. I'm like, whatever, they're not going to do it, Well, they filled his whole office up with, like, I think 2 pallets worth of water from the base. And our offices that are up in the trailers, all like little stands. So not realize all the weight water is going to push it down a little bit. Well, I came in the next morning, like, they didn't do nothing. He's coming back today from leave. Well, his door's shut. I'm like, okay, whatever, unlock it for him, and so my office chair start rolling back a little bit. I'm like, this can't be good. Open up the office door. It is seriously floor to floor, wall to wall, with cases of water. After like 2,000 bouncy balls or something. Like, it was just nonsense. Even the file commander came in and he saw them, like, "Oh, this is where all the base water went." We're like, "Yeah, we're hiding in here, sir." And it's just stupid shenanigans like that. It's like you think of it, but then like you actually experience the military, like, holy shit, this stuff actually does happen.
Yeah. You never forget it either.
No.
That's what creates the stories. Pabst Blue Ribbon, have they made you a spokesperson or the face of their beer yet?
No, not yet. You think by now they would have, but
Pabst, we need your help, all right? I'm going to ask 2 things. One, how about the first sponsor for the Preserving Freedom podcast? The can is red, white, and blue. And this guy, as you can see, we have pictures up here of his Christmas cards. This guy goes above and beyond for his Christmas cards. And we'll let the audience be the judge of that, but I think you're all going to agree with me. So, past blue ribbon, let's put this guy's face on a billboard. All right.
Or at least a can or something.
A can, a billboard, whatever it may be, on a case. This guy is going to help sell you past beer. I don't know anyone that is more, what's the word? Proud, honored, to drink your beer, PBR, Pabst. What can you do for us? Looking forward to hearing from you. So you say Green Bay, Wisconsin, but really the village of Howard. What was life growing up for you?
Growing up, the village of Howard was kind of like a small, secluded village outside of the city of Green Bay. And that's why I say Green Bay, because if I say village of Howard, half people don't even know where Howard is. So if I say Green Bay, obviously because of the Packers, then people are like, oh, I know where Green Bay is. So village of Howard, it borders the northwest side of Green Bay. And I basically lived my whole entire life there. My parents, when I was born, they built houses. We grew up there, all in the countryside. It was kind of quiet, secluded, and it was just nice, being like that close to the Green Bay, which kind of was not a city, but a big city for us. But yeah, it's still beyond the countryside. But now the way the village is building up now is all become like a suburb now.
Yeah,
like outskirts, like walking, everything just keeps spreading out farther and farther. And it was nice though, like the countryside, just peace of mind, and we used to have parties and that
absolutely
day, loud and do whatever you want. So
yeah,
that's pretty good.
Originally, you wanted to be a firefighter. How much did your dad influence that path?
Well, my dad, he influenced that big time. It's I can't remember exactly what year he started. I think it's shortly after I was born. He started with Howard Fire Department as a volunteer, because they were all volunteer back then in one station. And growing up, it was my first 13 years. He was on Howard Fire Department, and in the built Station 2, he was a captain, so 205, 5th in command, and he would kind of help run that station because we kind of lived that way too, so it was closer for him. And it just the full 13 years, like I've never had taking in calls even as a kid, because back then it was all volunteer, so just if you're in the area or it's closer for you to get there, like we'll go right to the call, now sit in the car and watch him, and just and he used to go out all the time, help him like wash trucks, and like participate in the parades and open house and stuff. And it's just the whole 13 years, just him doing it. It's like, this is what I want to do. Like, I don't care what else happens in life. This is my number one goal, to become a firefighter.
Is there one call you went with your dad that sticks in your head?
There's one kind of as a member. It's a big barn fire like out in Hobart next to Howard. Okay. And him and I were actually brought at Oneida for like some like fair thing that they had. I was playing little games with kids, and of course the page run off. So he could get in the air. He's like, "Let's go!" I'm like, "I'm trying to play games. I'm like having fun here." And that's one of the calls where B actually responded right to the scene, because for him to basically get to the station, he had to go right by the scene anyway. So he had his radio with him, and we went right to the scene, and he started directing traffic, kind of staging and all that. So that's kind of one of the moments I remember. Just in the corner street, and there's a whole barn just going up, seeing all the smoke and the flames, and everybody working on it, and it's kind of cool. It's like, it's be fun to do someday. Yeah.
Well, absolutely a shout out to your dad and all the firefighters, police officers, EMTs. Huge shout out to all of them. Thank you for your service, and those that will continue to lead the way. Your grandfather's service in World War II clearly left a mark. What stories stuck with you the most with your grandfather?
Well, that's kind of the sad part about this. He shared some stories, as a kid growing up, and there's also some stories. He passed away in 2003 before I joined the military, so he never got to see me serve. But there's some stories he told, and some of them he just straight up he said he would never tell. And there's a couple I remember. Like one time, I think they were in East Germany going through some town, and the Nazis were coming right behind them, so they actually hid in the barn up and under some hay. All those guys, and the guys came pitchforks, stabbing around looking for him, and luckily they never came to that back half of the barn. They're like, "Okay, we're all good, we're clear." And all his guys basically evaded the Nazis at one moment. And there was another moment, story you remember telling. I can't remember if it happened before he hit the bridge or after he hit the bridge, but they were going on a patrol through some town in Germany, and the bridge got blown up. And he was like 10 guys in front of it, behind him, like he just missed it. So I wish I would have heard more of his stories, because we all know World War II is full of all kinds of battles, and while like unknown battles we don't hear of too often, but you hear that stuff, like, holy shit, those guys went through some stuff.
Yeah. The greatest generation, right? Yeah. There is a reason why that is what they will always be called. When you look back now, do you think it was your grandfather's legacy or 9/11 that truly pushed you to raise your right hand, or was it both?
It was definitely with both of them. I say it's more 50-50, because obviously my grandpa being in the service, I kind of want to follow his path, because both my dad and my grandpa, they also worked for the railroad. but I was colorblind, so it's not a job that wasn't really easy for me to get into, and that really piqued my mind. So I'm like, well, if I take the military from my grandpa, then I can take firefighting from my dad. I kind of carry both legacies were there. So I'll definitely say it's 50-50, but when 9/11 happened, I think I was a sophomore in school, and I remember we jumped on the computers that day. We're doing TV production class, looking for ideas for videos, and I think we're in Yahoo's website, and right in the caption was that first plane hitting.
Yeah.
And thinking right away, like, well, shit, this tragic accident, shit happens, I was at some kind of emergency. But then the 30 minutes later, that's when the second one, came right in. We're like, okay, something's going on now. So I remember the whole day at school, going class to class. Some teachers let us watch the TVs or see what was going on because it's a historic moment for U.S. history. But when that happened, though, that definitely was, I think, the final drive that get me to go and serve. Just I'm like, this is bullshit. I'm not going to let these guys come here and carry out this attack on our soil and not do nothing about it. So
You were a sophomore, you said?
Pretty sure I was my sophomore year.
Yeah. You enlisted at just 17 years old. What was going through your mind at that age making that decision?
There wasn't really a whole lot going on, but like decision-wise, this is one of the things I knew I wasn't going to do it. And actually, the funny thing, I was actually kind of looking at joining the Marines first. And I was talking to the Marine recruiter for a little bit since I turned 17. And I'm like, well, give me some time, let me think about it. Well, then started first guy Todd Axel from the National Guard. He called me and jumped right on top of me. He's like, no, we're getting you in. I'm like, well, I was talking to the Marines, like, give me a couple minutes here. He's like, no, we'll get you in. And he would not leave me alone. So I'm kind of glad I did go the guard route. But, just one of those things I wanted to do it. And I just wanted to do it as soon as I could. And my parents were fully supportive of me because obviously that assigned for me being 17. And which is kind of funny because the day I left for basic training, my mom woke me up in the morning just crying her mind off, and I'm trying to sleep, come get ready to go to basic training. And I'm like, what are you crying for? It's like, well, my boy's leaving, and I'm like, but you signed for me to join. Like, why would you sign? She's like, well, I know you wanted to do this, and there was no stopping you. She's like, so I wanted to support you and your goals. Mm-hmm. So I'm grateful both my parents had, full support of me joining right away. Doing something.
Can't do it without that.
No.
Cannot do it without that. Do you have any siblings at all?
I got 2 older sisters.
Okay. Any of them, mom and dad have to sign when they're 17?
No, they never joined nothing. It is the normal high school, college, and then normal life. So
was there anything that stuck out as to why you joined the Guard specifically instead of active duty?
I think it was the whole the 1 week in a month and 2 weeks in summer, and then be able to go to college already because I said I want to be a firefighter. So I was trying to enroll in Fox Valley Tech to go become a firefighter. Obviously, my deployments threw a whole wrench in that game plan, but when they threw that out there, I'm like, well, shit, I can join the military. I'm going to show 1 week in a month, 2 weeks in the summer, and I can start going to school right away, and they'll give me money too to go to school and all that. I'm like, this is a no-brainer. And also the enlistment bonus, and I'm grateful too. I did that at 17 because your time starts right away and you sign. When you go active duty, it won't start until you ship out to basic. So I have some buddies in high school, they joined too around the same time, like Navy, Air Force, whatever. But they have an active duty, so I technically got to retire a year before them because my time started and theirs didn't. So
it's a big jump start you can, especially doing it as a junior. Mm-hmm. So I assume, did you do the split option training? Did you go to basic after your junior year?
Nope, I didn't because I joined July.
Okay.
So that's summer of my junior going to senior year, so it's too late to go. And actually, I joined I think when AT was going on, so it's too late to attend that. But I had to go be with the unit right away. So that's another nice thing too about going Guard. You get to go to back then we used to go to our unit right away. Now we're at the recruit sustainment program. But back then we didn't have that, so we had to go right to our unit. So we had to start meeting the guys, know the crews, and hand all them. So that's a really nice part about joining right away.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you remember about your first day in uniform?
My first day in uniform, it took me a while back then to get a uniform. So I think my first 3 or 4 drill weekends, also showing the civilian clothes, so I'm like, great, here I love the shit bag, new private, everybody knows, kind of a uniform. We're going to Fort McCoy from the rifle range, wearing normal clothes and stuff. But I remember my first time coming actually at the Alpine unit right here down the road. I was first stationed at, and it was right when the movie Matrix was coming out. And of course, my last name be Anderson, and I know the military's all serious, stirred to the point and stuff. So I walked up the armory and like, Mr. Anderson, I'm like, it's my first day here. Like, am I in trouble already? Like, what did I do wrong? Like, people can do it over and over. And once I got in for a while, okay, this is a little more chill and relaxed. I remember like my first bus ride to Fort McCoy. I'm like, okay, this is serious. And I'm like, I'm tired, but I don't want to be the guy that falls asleep in the bus, and get yelled at or something. So I stayed awake the whole time, just freaking out, not knowing what to expect, But yeah, it's it definitely was unique, and that's the old BDU days too. And
Okay.
I guess you kind of say that's towards like the tail end of all the hazing going on. So there's something else still going on a little bit. Or like I remember my first drill weekend too. Sorry, I go back a little bit, but I walked in the door. I don't know really anybody yet, and half people I see are walking with IVs in their arm already. I'm like, am I late? Like I thought formation left for like 30 minutes, and talk to some guy like, oh no, everybody comes in like with the guys from far out of town. They'll come and party all night. Then before formation, they'll start hitting up each other IVs because back when we did that combat lifesavers IVs, so they'll give each other IVs to get ready for formation or at least for drill weekend. So they're somewhat sober enough to do the job and stuff. So
yeah.
that was a big eye opener.
Yeah. Bless those medics. Bless that CL. It does come in handy. As a 42 Alpha human resources specialist, people might not immediately think combat. And that's one of the, I think, too, and probably in the military itself, there's opportunities when you kind of go outside your regular MOS.
Mm-hmm.
But, as a 42 Alpha, not immediately thinking combat, that's not always the reality. How would you describe your role to someone who doesn't understand it or never heard of it before?
The human resources job, it's a little different than, say, like on the civilian side, because obviously you do all different kind of reports, and stuff. So when I first got in, I was working battalion level. So we basically more CQ'd everything that came into us, and then you send it back to the units, or we help produce stuff for the units, and then work it for them, send them to hire and all that. Then when they're at like unit level, like I was second deployment, well, then that's where you're more doing all the reports and the forms. Like one thing I was in charge of was a personnel report or PERSTAT. And that thing is just a headache because if you're out by one number, you're there for hours trying to figure out where that one number is. Or some people, if you make a certain spreadsheet for it, you screw up that one formula, the whole sheet's junk, and you got to try to figure it out. So that PERSTAT, it sounds easy and simple to do, but it can be a monster. Mm-hmm. And being a new guy, the guard, that's my first responsibility. And I'm getting all these people, I'm like, hey, your numbers are wrong. They're like, no, they're right. I'm like, check Roger. Yeah. Go try them on. Go get yelled by somebody else now.
No, accountability. That's, as you mentioned, you get one off, you're one wrong. That's, people are going to be down your throat a little bit.
Well, I remember too, even like we're at Camp Shelby, the first deployment, we had Sergeant First Class Todd Peterson, big, huge,
He was my platoon sergeant in 0910 deployment.
Big, huge, bro. The guy, he like looks mean as all hell. He has the drill sergeant badge on his uniform, and he's just pretty sad to me, like, here you go, Anderson, that deep voice he has, and I look at him like, hey, Sergeant, your numbers are off. They're right. Roger, like, I'm not messing with you. Like, you can snap me in half. And
I know. He's a lot of respect for that guy, though.
Oh, he is amazing.
He was what right looks right. Yeah. Or what right looks like.
And deep down, he was a teddy bear. You had to get to it, but he was a teddy bear.
Great guy. I would hear stories because he used to be a recruiter as well. And the students they fell in love with the guy because, as you just mentioned, he was a teddy bear internally. But I remember hearing stories, girls would come up just to give him a hug. He would run out of there, because I'm not having anything to do with it. And it's kind of funny knowing Sergeant Peterson from like deployment times and trying to picture him in a high school with a bunch of high school girls, coming up and giving them hugs and whatnot. So
I'd love to see that.
I know. Oh, awesome guy. Great guy. Did you pick 42 Alpha?
No, not originally. I did not. Originally, I was trying to go infantry because that's where the bonus was at the time, the list, and that's what my grandpa did. So, I could follow in his footsteps. But being colorblind, I knew that going in. And my recruiter was like, well, we'll just go to MEPS. Hopefully, you can get past the test, And I'm one of the guys, like, people always ask me, oh, you're colorblind. What's this color? What's that? I'm like, I can see colors, you idiots. Like, I know my colors. It's just, like, the biggest one I screw up is navy blue and purple.
Yeah.
It screws me up a lot.
Oh, who doesn't?
Yeah. But, like, when I go to do a colorblind test, I'm screwed right off the bat. Like, even like the numbers, I'll make it like the second, third page, and I'm done. So when I did MEPS, I filled the test right away, and then the nurse, just crabby. He's all like, you can't do infantry, blah, blah. You're going to go talk to the MEPS desk again, I'm like, whatever,
Yeah.
So I go through the whole process, and then I call my recruiter at the end of the day, like, hey, can't do infantry. He's like, am I done, I was like, hold on, give me a second. So he jumped on the phone, and then he actually found an access slot down here in Appleton at HAC 127 for human resources. Like, if you just want to get in, I can put you in the access slot. You lose your bonus, but you still get your GI Bill and all that stuff. So I'm like, sure, just get me in the door. At least I got my foot in, then I can make a change pass later on. So yeah, the human resources wasn't my first choice. Another choice I was possibly going to do a supply, but then my recruiter straight up told me like not to do it. And after being in for 20 years, I'm like, hey, I'm glad I called that person. That's a
A
whole
lot of respect
beast.
for supply NCOs.
Oh God, yeah.
Man, especially here at HHC, that's a big, it's a big company.
Oh, I know. One month I had to do the sensitive items, the quarterly check, whatever. So I go up every weapon, every SINGARs, nods, everything. I put hands on here. Then we go to Clintonville and do the same thing with like all the mortar tubes and everything. I had to sign for. I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, I'm glad I did not do this job.
That's a lot of money that you're responsible for.
Yeah.
If one thing goes missing, you're the guy.
Yeah.
You're the guy. Basic training. Where did you go, and what do you remember most?
I'm at Fort Jackson, South Carolina, or people call it Relaxing Jackson. And the reason I went there because the Human Resources School is right there on base as well. So I did my 2 months of basic right away. Had like 5 days off with family. Then right across base to or AIT school, Advanced Individual Training School. And it's funny that one, our drill sergeant, senior drill sergeant, actually, he shuttled us from the basic training barracks over to the AIT school, and he dropped us off in the old soft top Humvee, you know, get your shit over here, throwing our bags out. He gives us a finger and peels out of there. And I'm like, all right, see you later, drill sergeant, you know, and then meet all these brand new drill sergeants that we got to try to figure out. And there's a couple of drill sergeants that stick in my mind. One is when the song Akon Locked Up came on, and whenever she did CQ in the morning before wake up, she would blast that song on the speakers, and you can hear her just laugh up in the hallways, waking everybody up. And then another drill sergeant, she was smoking the shit out of us one day. I can't remember what my class did. We screwed up on something. It was dark out. So we're out in the volleyball pit area outside the barracks. She's like, right, everybody get a sandbag, you know, like they'll do like lunges, you know, whatever with. I'm like, oh, dark out, you know, like I'll grab a small one. Not knowing the thing's full of fire ants. So I thought I'd be smart grabbing a small one for a lighter weight. And I'm like, my arms are killing me. But I can't drop it because I'll get everybody else in trouble. So we get done doing the session. I go back in the barracks. My whole arms are all just swelled up and chewed up. And I'm like, yes, last time I ever take the latest sandbag in the pile. Learned my lesson on that one.
I bet you did. So you're going to basic training AIT with pretty much the war just kicking off. Did you have a feeling you were going to get deployed?
Not really, because back then, my recruiter fed me the bullshit, like, oh, we're National Guard, we never deploy. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Like, you always see the National Guard in the news too often, you know, going in deployment. So I'm like, we should be all right, you know. Like,
yeah.
Wasn't too bad. And I remember I came back from basic and AIT training. I was like, going on for a drill week because it was Fort McCoy one. I sat down, breakfast with some guys from Charlie Company, and like, yeah, I heard we're getting deployed, you know, we're getting called up. And I'm like, yeah, bullshit. Like, this ain't happening. Well, then a couple months later, we had the phone call, like, shit, this is real now. And we only had like 30 days to get ready. So they came quick.
Take us back to your first deployment. As you mentioned, you just get back a few months later. The rumor becomes kind of reality. What was it like stepping in to Kuwait and operating near Safwan?
Going because our base camp Navistar technically was in Kuwait, but it was on the Iraq-Kuwait borders. And right across the border was town Safwan. That was the main town that we patrolled. But I remember the first day stepping off the plane, you're like, okay, this shit's real. And it's still kind of like early phase of the war. So like, okay, are we still shitting buckets and burning it, you know, or like do we have internet, you know, you don't know how things are set up yet, you know. So I remember I canceled like my cell phone plan, you know, because I didn't know if I could have a cell phone or not. And I remember that like the first time I stepped into the plane, like, the heat just hits you, you know, and like, holy shit, this, like, I'm a fat guy, I don't deal with heat well. So I was not happy with that right away. So it's definitely a shock, you know, when you first get there, because it's just a whole new environment and just no trees except for some areas, but just desert. And like here we see deer running around. Over there you see camel and sheep, you know, and it's perfectly normal. Yeah. Instead of snow drifts, you get sand drifts, you know, and stuff like that. So it's still bad was the same, you know, Wisconsin, but I mean, it's just a whole new role game, and it just clicks in your head like, okay, you know, this is serious now. This game on.
Mm-hmm. That reality hit.
Yeah.
You were part of an S1 team, but still found yourself on convoy and route security. What was that transition like for you mentally from desk to convoy?
It wasn't a whole lot of like a big change to me. It was just a break from the office, you know, because it just gets mind numbing looking at reports all day, or like, keep reading all these awards, you know, or eval reports and stuff, you know. And so for me and all the other guys in the office, it was kind of like our break away from the office. Like, it was nice just to get out. Even we didn't care if we're a gunner, driver, truck commander. We didn't care. We just wanted to get on the road, you know, and then now we get out and experience things. And the big thing too, a lot of us wanted to get out. I think it was that you had at least 60 days in country to get the Iraqi campaign medal. Well, since we're in Kuwait side, we want to get that. So a lot of our guys were like, well, shit, I need to get that 60 days to get that extra ribbon, you know, and look all cool and badass when I get back. So I think that was a lot of guys' push was to go on missions too when they could, just to get the extra award. I hate to say it too, there's a couple guys who are they're hunting, for like a Purple Heart,
Yeah.
or a combat action. But you're always gonna have those guys. And so
Yeah.
they're all gun ho going on all these missions. Like it was like my officer, I think he had like 100 some days on mission, never got shot or nothing, and here I only had like 40, maybe 50 days, or like half of them on, and I got it, So he was a little salty about that, but like, maybe just luck of the draw,
Yeah. I mean, not a to each your own.
Yeah.
To each their own. What was that? Do you remember your first time? So, as S1, you're got inside the wire, they say, that first time going outside the wire, any different feelings of kind of that similar to the reality of I'm in a war zone when you first got there, and now your first time going outside that wire, emotions running high, heartbeat raising at all, or were you pretty cool, calm, and collective?
Yeah, the first handful of times, I think I wrote security first in town Safwan. So once you cross the border, it's a huge border to go through. But once you cross it and you hit that final gate, then you actually get in Iraq. You're like, okay, this is it now. Like you're in a hazardous area. You don't know who to trust, what to expect. And Safwan, for the most part, was a fairly safe place. But we had one area, like we call it Cloverleaf Interchange, because it's just a big 4-circle interchange. It was notorious for activity. So we always tried to avoid that as much as we could, And then we had a Safwan Hill where we had a big radio tower set up for the south area. We always had to protect, and checking our guys out there, make sure everything's good. So then once you went through that wire and you went across, like, okay, this is a whole new game. Because when you're on the Kuwait side, we had to carry weapons. We had to wear civilian clothes in off time. But you go across, weapon with you all the time, full uniform. You don't know where your kid is, in case shit hits the fan if you're on that base, and it's just like the whole not trusting anybody. Like you go through town, on the way out, people waving at you, cheering for you. You come back through town, they'll be all throwing rocks at you and giving the finger. Like, the hell? Like, you just waving at us like 2 hours ago. Now you're giving me the finger and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so it's just a whole new world over there. It's just crazy how much that little changes from each country, even.
Yeah. What's that border like? So when going from Kuwait to Iraq, what's the process? Are you guys, are they checking anything at the border there? Are you just driving through? What's that border crossing like for you?
The border crossing is a huge border crossing, because I don't know if they still are today or not, but Iraq and Kuwait, they fight over who owns what part of the border. So the border crossing, it's not like a mile long, but it's at least 2 or 3 football fields long, and you go through one gate, and they see your military coming through, so they open the gate, let you through, and the only one time something the Iraqi side, if I remember correctly, they would stop every now and then, check your paperwork, or just make sure you're legit, or when you're coming back through. But once you went through the Iraqi gate, depending on what the intel was, for activity, was determined if you're red or amber on your weapon systems, and then when you came back through, you had to clear your weapons, of course, but it wasn't a whole lot of like checks or nothing. It just, they see you like, okay, you're military, go through. The only ones that really give issues with the Iraqis sometimes.
Yeah.
Because those guys are hit or miss, whether they're trustworthy or not. Like, we heard reports even like, they knew of a bomb one time that blew up some of our guys. They didn't say where it was. They knew about it though. And there's been other times we captured people. And okay, we're done with them. We return word to them, for the proper arrest, and they let them go, Like a month later, like, did we just arrest this guy last month? Now he's back walking the street, So it's just, it's just a little different,
Yeah.
It's not like full on like going across like Mexico border where you're doing a full customs check, and all that, but it's usually got through pretty good.
Yeah. What's something about Camp Navistar that people back home would never know, never understand?
I'd probably say the annoying mosque that was outside of the front gate. It was literally like our front gate, and there's a mosque right there. And all they play their prayer music and stuff. So every day, look at the clock, what time it was, because the music going off, and it was just so loud. And like, people don't understand it, because we have churches and stuff. You hear church bells and stuff, but they do prayer. It's like an hour long. Just, I might not to be rude, but it's like a guy just yelling in the microphone. It's just like, so that's one funny thing they tell people when we got back home. Like, yeah, there's a mosque right. So they gave like that not safe. I was like, well, technically we can't enter. Or attack everything that did happen. But it's like, yeah, it's literally the gate, the wire, and the mosque. So.
Walk us through that day, May 14th, 2006. What do you remember leading up to that convoy?
So that day was we're getting kind of towards like, not like the end of our deployment, it was like the last 4 months ish, where we're starting to plan, going home. And I was kind of thinking myself, like, it'd be nice to go, one, I call it like short missions and long missions. Short ones, the cedar runs, we run the cedar, then grab another convoy, come right back. We do those all day long. Then the long missions were anything going to Scania or farther because those were multiple days, so I call it long runs. And it was Sergeant First Class Tim Lacey was with headquarters company at first and ops, but he got transferred over to Bravo Company to be a platoon sergeant. And one of his guys was one of my buddies too. He was home on leave at the time, and so he needed a driver. So he comes up, "Hey Anderson, you want to go up to Anaconda with us?" I'm like, "Sure, let me go ask." We asked my boss. I was like, "Yeah, I guess you can have Andy, for the mission, And I'm like, cool, one more last run, And so we make our whole way up through Cedar, stop to refuel, main Scania, stop because we get to Scania, you had to wait till dark time to go anywhere near Baghdad because how busy it is, how hectic it is. That you only going to go through at nighttime, and so we make it through Baghdad, all that up to Anaconda. We get like a day off, and I'm glad we had a day off because our barracks, I swear to God, were right underneath the airstrip. And every hour, just jet after jet just taking off, and there are 10 buildings, and just rattling, so we had like no sleep. So we had the day off, and then it's time to get ready to head back south now. And it was actually May 14th, which was my dad's birthday, so everything normal that day. We wake up, do a PT, get breakfast, hygiene, go have lunch, we rest for a little bit, and then do our PMCS on our trucks and stuff, and make sure everything's ready to go. And before we went to after dinner, we went over like the PX MWR area, and like right, you got an hour, whatever it was, get your snacks, drinks, whatever you want for the mission, or we're just go chill in MWR or whatever. So I ran over the PX, got a couple of snacks for the trip, and stuff. And I'm like, I got a couple of minutes. It was my dad's birthday. I'm like, I know the time difference was like 4 or 3 in the morning here. I'm like, nobody's probably gonna answer the phone. They know they'll look for that odd number to come up. I'm like, they're probably not gonna answer. But my dad's birthday, just in case shit hits the fan, something happens. Like, I'll call and wish him happy birthday. So I go to MWR and get on the phone. I'm like, hey Dad, happy birthday. Just without going into any details. Like, I'm out and about, but I'll call again later. When I get a chance. Or whenever things are safe again. And go from there. So that night, then we head over to the staging area for the convoy, and we were supposed to be the first convoy out, and you never want to be the first one out the door. And because we're heading back towards Baghdad, we had to wait for nightfall. So we're out by the staging area, we're all linked up with our convoy and stuff, and we're just waiting for the sun to go down. And the sun's starting to crest on a little bit. Next thing you know, we hear a huge explosion right outside the gate on the road we're going on. And that road, I can't remember what road it was or like the name for it, but it was notorious for getting blown up. Camp Anaconda, which was a Blot Air Base, they called it Mortarville because it was notorious for getting blown up. And so that whole road is just full of holes everywhere. So we're sitting waiting on it, the bomb goes off, like, oh shit, no, this is going to delay us, because we had to wait for the route to get cleared. So we all take our gear off, we all relax again. And then next another convoy pulls up next to us, and they're supposed to be number 2 out the door. And for some reason, I don't know what they were carrying or there's more urgent or what, or they just want to get the hell out of there. But their convoy commander comes over us and like, hey, we're going first tonight. Like, you want to get the hell out of here, whatever, blah, blah. I'm like, go ahead, clear the road for us. They're going the same direction we are. Like, go ahead, clear for us. Yeah. So the road got cleared finally, and that fall happened. So let the first convoy go. We waited like 30, 40 minutes, whatever it was, to get clearance from command. Then we went out. And everything's going good for the most part. And when you're in the trucks, you have multiple radios. Like, you have your own command channel that you're listening to your group. Then you have, like, we call the sheriff net, which is like the theater wide in that area, and keep people updated on what's going on. And we hear some activity going on here and there, but just okay, ID here or possible ID here, shooting here, nothing major going on. So we're coming on the southwest side of Baghdad, going around the city, like near the Abu Ghraib, and there's a big interchange you got to take on the highway to get back to MSR Tampa or get the main MSR Tampa road to his south. And we're just about to that curve, and we're in a huge long convoy, and we see a flare go off in there ahead of us. Like, oh shit, that's right where we're going, and that's the convoy ahead of us signaling to anybody in the air, like, hey, shit's hitting the fan here, like, be warned, So we're trying to listen to the radio, and it just pure chaos and panic going on. You can't understand anything from the convoy ahead of us. And there'd be no way the convoy ahead of us going south with us, but we also had a private security convoy heading north at the same time on the other side. So it's just a complete cluster going on. And this guy probably, you think it was just one guy that night acting, but he's probably just having a field day, unloading his gun and bombs at us. And so we radio our first gun truck that's up ahead of us, like, hey, we don't know if you're there yet, no, but when you got there, please give us a report, what's going on. Like, yep, well, we're almost there, we'll let you know. They get up there and like, we're taking heavy small arms fire. We don't know what direction, what distance. There's chaos going on up here. There's convoy that was ahead of us. They're pulling over because they must have got hit. And there's a convoy going north that's slowing down. They must have got hit as well. There's a private KBR security one. So They start telling us, like, hey, just let you know, like, we know where the shooter is, you know, what's going on. First gun truck makes it through. And then I was in the middle one, and Bravo 57 or no 49 was in we're in the middle one, and we hit the curve. And we're like, okay, you know, we're in the hot zone now, like, get ready. And before we got to that area, we told our gunner, like, hey, we're coming towards Baghdad, like, don't use the Mark 19 because damage. You know, we actually had 240 with us as a secondary, which is pretty cool. So they used the 240, you know, less damage. So we pulled in the hot zone, and before we made half of the curve, the guy unloads on us, you know, probably good 30, 50 rounds, you know. And like, we can't tell where it's coming from. You hear the bullets, but we know that our gunner's headphones, and, you know, his mic set, and the crack of the bullets, and like, he's getting close. Well, lucky he didn't hit the truck at all, but. So we hit the curve, and then out of nowhere the gunfire stops, and we're just about through the curve, or all the way through the curve. Like, this isn't good, you know, when it gets quiet like this. And then here next to the IED goes off about 100 meters ahead of us. And we think it was more directed at the convoy going northbound because on that side. But he set off a little early and went right between two trucks. But we were close enough, you felt the concussion, you know, from it, and you saw the debris flying across the road and shit. And the second the bomb went off, the guy again picked up his, I'm guessing, AK probably, and started unloading on us again, you know, just trying to hit anything he could, you know, just praying. And my gunner, luckily, last second, right, we're just about straight to like at 9 o'clock on us. Our gunner spotted him, and he must have the American team was already in that direction. So he said, F it, I'm shooting this. And he placed one round to the left, one round to the right of the guy. And when I first heard it, I heard like chunk, chunk. I'm like, oh shit, the 240 Bravo is jammed up in the gunfight. Like, this is like the worst case scenario. And I look in my eye as we're driving, I saw two quick flashes. And I go, George, did you fire the Mark 19? Yeah, I fired the Mark 19. Like, and then my truck mate was like, dude, we told you not to fire the Mark 19. Like, sorry, it's the only option I had. Like, you know, it's. And the guy, he was only hiding behind like a big metal post that you see it on the highway, holding the big road signs over the highway. So they said one round straight to the left, one round to the right, and once that happened, everything stopped. But now the convoys, the other two, we're pretty sure they had casualties, or at least they got hit in their vehicles because they were slowly crawling through the zone. But luckily, no one in ours got hit, you know. And we call our rear gun truck, like, hey, you guys see anything going on? Like, no, it's quiet up here now. We're like, okay, guess we did our job then. So it worked out perfect. That our gunner, like I said, he was on his game, and he pulled Mark 19 out, and like I said, I don't know if it was positioned that way already, and that's why he used it, because we're in the middle of gun trucks, we're left to right, so I don't know if it's how he had his guns, you know, lying that night. But and the guy too, he was just outside of range too for the grenade rounds to go off, so another thing that I got lucky on.
Nice. Were you all in Humvees?
We were, yes.
Okay, man. And then did you get a hold of your dad before you went on a mission when you called to wish him happy birthday?
No, because before we left for mission, that's when because it was like 3 or 4 in the morning here, so I left a voicemail. But shortly they get to Scania, you know, and we're all kind of debriefing, you know, and everybody's like, yeah, that was awesome, you know, it was cool, you know. And of course, as my first action, so my truck commander's like, fucking Anderson, you know, I got to do all this paperwork now for you, got your goddamn award and all this. And he's cussing his friend because everybody else that been doing this, you know, the whole deployment style, they already got their CIBs and stuff ready. And so he's cussing his friend the whole way. And then we get back to Scania, and then I'm like, I should probably call my dad one more time, you know. I mean, it was late there, but we weren't going on to Michigan for a while because we had to get some sleep, you know, and then head south during daylight. So I gave him a call and like, hey, happy birthday, give me a message. I'm like, oh, I got your message, you know, thanks for that, you know, I'm talking to you and shit, you know. I'm like, well, just so you know, I had some fireworks over here for your birthday. He's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, without going into many details, I'm like, well, I got to see some action, you know, a little bit ago. And like, no, you didn't. I'm like, yeah, I did. And it's one of those things, like, it took them, I think, a while just to set in, you know, like, because they're halfway around the world, so they don't know what to expect. And I think it just like a punch to his gut almost, you know, like, holy shit, like, here at my birthday, I'm trying to celebrate, have fun, and like, yep, you're at home drinking a beer, eating cake and ice cream, whatever, and I'm stopping bullets and the bomb.
Yeah.
While everybody's back home celebrating.
Man.
Actually, I have a little picture here too. You know, kind of paints the picture a little bit of the incident happening.
Are you all right if I make a copy of this?
Yeah, that's fine.
I'm going to post it on here for our audience to look at.
It's been like 20 some years now, so nothing's secret and nothing's.
Yeah.
So it kind of shows like where the Mark 19 wrong landed, and the IED and stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Another funny thing too, that night we had some unit that was at Camp Anaconda. There was like 4 people. They needed to hitch a ride back to Scania. And they heard we were going away, like, hey, can we hitch a ride? Like, yeah, we got some open seats, you know, jump in. So we had some captain with us. Somehow he stuck the whole turn ordeal.
Those officers.
Because after we got through all the contact, you know, we're all checking, they're like, hey, so you're good? Yeah, yep, I'm good. You're good? Yeah, we're good. Sir, you good? Nothing. Sir, captain, are you good? Nothing. So like, George, give him a good kick. He kicks him real quick. And he's like, yeah, what do you want? I'm like, sir, are you fine? Yeah, I'm fine. I'm just sleeping. I'm like, didn't you hear what just happened? And like, no, I didn't hear nothing. Like, you didn't hear the gunfire, the Mark 19, the IED? Like, no, I slept right through all of it. I'm like,
Wow.
I don't know how he slept through all that shit.
Teach me how.
Yeah.
Wow.
Unless he's one of the guys that's seen enough combat, you know, and is like,
Yeah.
even when the guys hears war comes in, like, oh, I'm going back to bed, you know. I don't know.
Unbelievable. So we are here with Trevor Anderson, GWOT Veteran, Global War on Terror. When the IED hit and the small arms fire started, what are you know, every second counts. What's going through your head? I know you just went into depth with what happened, but that initial reaction, what's going on? What are you thinking, feeling? You just called your dad, you know, left him a voicemail for his birthday. It's, you know, a big day on as you mentioned, halfway across the world, and here you are kind of facing reality of that conflict. What's when that all of a sudden just hit? What's going through your mind?
There was a lot going on actually. It's just because like when you're in convoys, they get boring after a while, especially if they do the long ones because you're 8 hours stuck in a little humvee like this, driving all your gear on, sweating your ass off, and so you just get like mind numbers, looking straight ahead, looking for any threats, you know. And then once this happens, your eyes just open big because you're scanning for anything, trying to find out what's going on, where, you know. So you start calling direction and anything like that. So it's a huge adrenaline rush. It just like a light switch gets flipped on. You're wide awake, checking everything. You don't know what to trust anymore, you know. And,
Except the captain.
yes, yeah, the captain. Like, he was not awake all the time. But yeah, just, like all of us, it just like music. Like could be music on the headphones, so we had something to listen to. Immediately stop the music right away, so we all talk clearly to each other, and you're calling each other gun trucks, you know, trying to give each other updates as much as you can, and then just like a whole world of chaos at once. Then once you're done, you're like, holy shit! Like you start coming off in the high, then, you know, and it's man, it's hard to explain almost.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it is difficult unless you've been through it. You mentioned your gunner being on his game. What did that moment teach you about trust with your team?
The gunner is especially George. I think I did one mission with him prior to that too. So and I knew a lot of guys from the Bravo company and that platoon because I had some friends there already. So I knew him pretty well beforehand. But then after that happened, I'm like, this guy's a pretty good badass guy, you know. Like the way he plays the 2 rounds perfectly. You know, he made that last second decision. Nord Art talked about going to 240 and said, screw it, Mark 19 it is, you know, and not knowing the precautions that were coming afterwards when we got back from base. Well, higher I was complaining, but same token, like, well, shit, it did his job. He did his job, you know, and just he's an outstanding guy, you know. Just I'm glad he was there that night with us.
Yeah, it's incredible. You realize that again, as every second counts when you're in combat, the reaction of your, you know, brother and sisters in arms, and how it's automatic. You know, it's incredible. It makes you feel good. Yeah. You know, knowing that, you know, that's the team that you have that has your back, your left, your right. There's something after when everything ended. What's the emotional? And you kind of started talking about what's that emotional come down like after you're driving, not much happening, all of a sudden, boom. You know, I mean, so much can change in an instant. What are you feeling after you kind of the heart rate gets back to kind of normal resting heartbeat, if you can say that? How are you feeling?
For me, I didn't remember feeling a whole lot, you know, different. You said a little adrenaline going, you know, and I like, we got back to Scania base, everybody started popping like dip right over and smoke cigarettes, you know, trying to get that nicotine fix, you know. They're looking at me like, Anderson, how are you not smoking or dipping right now? I'm like, I just don't smoke or dip, you know. And like, don't you do anything to get rid of your adrenaline, you know, or like get your fix? I'm like, no, it's just, I hate to say it, but I live for that stuff, you know. That's part of the reason I became a firefighter eventually. It's just that adrenaline is just, I love having that there and like going to unknown and taking over, you know, doing your job and what you can.
Good for you for not getting addicted to any of that stuff.
I know. The only thing I did, I kind of really started making comedy for this a little bit, but smoke cigars.
Yeah.
Because we did the comedy once with Camp Cedar, and because we had some guys stationed there, and they're like, hey, Anderson, come handle this, you know? I'm like, no, I'm trying to go lay down. I was like, I got cigars. He pulls a bag of cigars. I'm like, all right, I'm going to this major. So that's the only thing I kind of got hooked on a little bit, but
yeah,
not too much.
Now we're going into your second deployment. Had you as an admin NCO with Higher Headquarters Company to the 127th. How was that leadership role different from your first tour?
It was way different because I went from battalion level, working like all the staff members and officers and direct, like battalion commanding sergeant major. I'm more responsive to them, or regular unit level. Well, here now I'm more creating all the documents, and I'm trying to help the commander first and control the whole unit. We had like hundreds of people. So I go from a battalion where I'm just kind of overseeing like 600, 700 people, where I'm actually physically controlling 100 some people with commander first sergeant. So it was definitely different, and I'm glad I was a sergeant by then. So I went to warrior leadership course and learned more leadership skills and became more sure. And different whole ballgame. I said, it's working town level where you're more just okay. Yep, everything looks good. Send it, or now you're actually you're the guy that does everybody's paperwork, and if you're the one that screws up, they sort somebody's benefits, So it's a whole different ballgame, and it's definitely unique, being that side of the plane, especially for a headquarters company, because you're still a lot of staff members, and now here I'm in charge of all the paperwork, so it's like, well, piss off the next someone wants to do paperwork or something. So it was different, but it's a good experience.
Yeah. Camp Bucca has a unique history. What was your experience being there during that time?
When we were there, I remember the first half of the deployment, we said the detainees there. Then we started transferring them all over to the Taji and other detainee facilities. So the second half of the deployment, the detainee operation was kind of non-existent anymore, and we were more in the phase of turning things over. And we actually had a brief one time with I got invited to was the General Ordinero 4-star. So I got to go his briefing and sit there and watch that coming from him. That's pretty cool. And we were doing that briefing because we were Baltic Forces Command base, so we had every branch there. I don't know where you guys had, but we had like 5 Coast Guard people somewhere. I don't know where they had on base. You never saw them until these briefings happened, but we had Coast Guard people there, and we did the whole briefing with the General and Arrow and his Sergeant Major, kind of like how we're transitioning base over to the civilians, back to Iraq and stuff. And so that's kind of cool, unique being part of that, big base.
Absolutely.
And then here we're in the transition of turning it over now and stuff. So that's kind of cool, but the difference between the first two deployments, the first deployment, because we're doing convoys, shit's happening all the time. No, but the second deployment where things are a lot calmer, nothing going on. I think we had like maybe 4 or 5 days that I carried gear with us, or rare gear, and no one coming threats nor nothing. So it just went from a war game, the first one where, okay, you're going out, you're 50-50 chance. Now we're on the second deployment, like, there's nothing going on. Like, our office, even, we call it work stop for Sunday. We show up at our PTs on Sunday, we do work in the morning, half, go to lunch, come back in the office, clean weapons, and we'll watch a movie the rest of the day. Because we swear the war stopped on Sunday, nothing ever happens. So like, just get back and relax, and just enjoy the day. And
war stop for Sunday.
So some other things got kind of pissed about it, because they can hear us on this side laughing, having fun, watching movies. Like, hey, we're still working over here. Like, what work? We're stopping on Sunday.
Yeah.
That? Like,
General Ordinero, he's a big guy.
Old guy. Yeah,
he is a huge. Respectfully, sir. I know. Hopefully, you're enjoying retired life.
Oh, he passed away a couple years ago.
I did really.
Yep.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because I was hoping I had a picture with him when I got my coin, but I don't. But I still have the coin on my half wall. I still look at every day, and I can't remember he passed away from. It was like 3 years ago, maybe 4.
Oh, no, man.
But he was a great guy.
Yeah. Oh man.
Sorry for.
No. Thank you for. Man, I'm just surprised I didn't catch that. Man. Oh, well, rest in peace, big guy. How had you changed between your first and second deployment, both as a soldier and a person?
I'll say, like I said, I definitely became more mature because that first deployment, I'm still fresh out of high school, I was only 19, 20, so I'm still kind of like young, don't care, really do whatever I want. Then I also became 21, so I started drinking all the time, so I'm like, yeah, let's go party and have fun. So I didn't really care about much, back then, but then as I got older, and the second deployment came, and I had more responsibilities, being a sergeant, and then being in the company role more than the battalion role, so definitely grew more mature, and got my head on more straight, and I'm glad I did, because back then, like how I acted and was younger, like everybody else, I was like, man, I was a shitbag back then, like, how did I make it this far, and then now you're like, I see why, everything's got fixed, so it's definitely a big change in my personality, both civilian side and military side.
Yeah. You also served during border operations in 2007. What was that mission like compared to deployment? Where were you in 2007? I know border, so...
It was Arizona we were. That's back when the government was activating National Guard troops for like a month at a time to go do border patrol. And not the whole battalion got to go, so luckily half of us got to go do border patrol, while I had to go for to go do an AT. So I'm like, yeah, all right, we'll be working.
Yeah.
Because we're staying in a hotel, and stuff, and at least you're actually more doing a job than just sweating your ass off, not showering in the field, and doing whatever a forward way. So they have us go down to Arizona and do border patrol. We spent like 5 days in one city doing training. And then after that, it was down close to the border. We used one of the 36th Infantry Division Armory as kind of a hub, which actually kind of cool because that's from my grandpa. The unit was the 36th Infantry. So,
Really?
Yeah. So it's kind of cool, being that, I don't think it was an actual armory, but it was cool to be part of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I looked around, I saw the blue arrowhead, the team, like, holy shit, that's grandpa's old unit, so that's kind of cool. But the biggest thing we had, because most of us just came out of combat from Iraq in 2005, 2006. And here, a year later, now you're putting us on the border, full gear, kit, everything, weapon, but you're telling us we can't shoot. Unless you're shot upon. Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially all these new fresh combat guys just got done, shooting at everything. So
yeah, it's a transition right there.
Yeah, and when we did that too, the guys, they typically go like 24-hour rotations, and they'll spend like half guys up, half down, kind of resting or whatever. And the thing that sucked is we couldn't really do a whole lot while we were out there because we weren't actually war patrol or authority, So all we did is just have someone called in. We couldn't really detain, like I said, we couldn't shoot unless they're shot upon,
Yeah.
And so that kind of sucked. But for my role, I was more working with operations at night. And then just me and one other guy, because nothing going on too much at night time. So we just worked the operations room. And we're set up like a conference room in the hotel, in the middle of the hotel, just doing whatever. And so it was a little different. And
Yeah.
I never went on the board myself. I kind of wanted to, but I just never made it all because I was the only guy for the S1 team for nighttime. So just me and one other guy next, so I really couldn't get out at all. But
yeah,
it was a little different though, and it's kind of a cool, unique experience. And at the time, I'm sure the record got broken up, but we had the biggest drug bust on the border at the time. So that's kind of cool that we left, we were kind of pounding our chest, walking all proud, like, look what we did,
You know a dollar amount at all?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
Dollar, kilos, I can't remember what it was, but it was like at the time, it was the biggest drug bust on the border, though. Like, hell yeah.
Man. Now, jumping to 2020, you were activated during COVID, civil unrest, and everything that came with that year and following. Share with us some experiences with that activation.
That one was pretty unique because when I first called, it was right when COVID started, and granted, my full-time job, I'm warehouse supervisor for 7-Up Dr. Pepper Green Bay, so my job pretty much was still safe. We still got to distribute soda, water, whatever, so. But I was afraid of things, because everybody's panicking, and things are slowing down, and this shut down, whatever. So I'm like, well, the guard called me for possibly state active duty at the time. I'm like, well, at least I know I'll go there, I'll make a little money, and I guarantee a job then, at least, in case stuff here is slowed down at work. So I jumped in the thing right away, and at first I'm thinking, like, okay, I'll go do something clashing, or something. Well, it was Master Bowen, actually, he just retired, but he saw my name pop up on the list as one of the volunteers, and he's working on J1 at the time, too. He's like, we're taking Anderson. So then I get the phone call back, like, get reporting to it for headquarters, blah, blah, J1. I'm like, son of a bitch. I was hoping he would have that for a little bit, but at the moment, he saw my name, he's like, no, we're getting Anderson. I worked years with him, like, we're taking him. So, it was cool to work, up with that big experience, working joint operations. The hardest thing, though, was because we were working Air Force and Army, so we had our way of doing things, and then they had their own way or forms, so, like, we're trying to do the, paperwork stuff, and we're like, well, this is how this should be done. Like, no, this is our form, like, I don't know what the hell this form is, so luckily in joint operations, you're basically 50-50 air and Army, and then you got a mix of civilians in there, so they helped us out a lot. And it's cool being that part of the big puzzle, working for the whole entire state, seeing everything come together, like all the stuff in collection, and all the sites out around the whole state and stuff. But then, like I said, when we told me, the whole year, the whole world basically burned down, so all the riots, wildfires, the election missions, so it was cool, seeing all that come together. And technically we're on order just for COVID. We're still working on all the riots. Like, I remember being in the ops room when Kyle Rittenhouse shot.
Oh, really?
That guy.
Yeah.
We were watching one of the projectors, and if you saw it happen live, and we're like, shit, we wait guys like 3 blocks down, so we're hoping it wasn't nothing at them or one of our guys, so it's definitely a unique experience. And at the time, it was COVID being so big, we were doing 24/7 operations, so it was a huge operation that happened. And then as soon as kind of slowed down, it was a little easier. We cut back a little bit, and only was like FDA, 24/7 kind of operations, like during the riots and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it also has a DNC going on at the same time too, Milwaukee, but because of COVID, it got canceled. But we still had like Secret Service guys with us working, and doing little bits and pieces there and stuff. So it's cool to see all that stuff come together and the joint operations come together and work. So
you're busy.
Yeah.
Busy. You served 20 years in the military and 17 as a firefighter. That is 2 lives of service. Which one shaped you more?
I'd probably say more the military. Just because they teach you more to be harder, push through the bullshit, brace the suck and drive on and get to the hard ones where firefighter, you're a civilian, so. And in our department, we had a small handful of guys that were military, so we all got along pretty well. We all knew each other, how we worked. But like everybody else, was like, get out the call, they're just burnt out, like, that wasn't that bad, or like, just suck up, drive on, just get your shit together and go on the next call, or whatever. So I'd say the military probably shaped my life more and more taught me how to endure and brace the suck, and drive on and, hey, there's going to be shitty moments, but guess what? Somebody here look back and you're gonna laugh about it, or like, hey, remember this moment that sucked ass, but then you're like, that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
You laugh about it now, so it's that military definitely, like the leadership and everything, so definitely helped me more.
Do you recognize a commonality between the two?
For the most part, yes, because like when the fire department, I'm speaking more now like how hard it was like a Green Bay, Madison, Walker would be. You're working in a company, so you know your guys and your crew.
Yeah.
So everybody's strengths and weaknesses, and everybody has their own scientist. Like, you're an officer, you're a driver, and the guys in the back, okay, what seat is, how you gear yourself, like, okay, you're still irons, and ground holes, and you're in charge of the thermal camera and hooking hydrant, everybody has a job and do these responsibilities out. So you kind of know everybody's strengths and weaknesses there. So, yeah.
That has been 37 years. So are you still with Howard Fire?
No.
Okay. All right.
I left that 2 years ago now.
37 years. Do you have any itching to go back at all? One or the other, firefighting or?
Firefighting more, I'd say. The military way things are changing and stuff, and like, we worked our recruitment statement program. You see all the new kids come in, like, God, they're so soft now. I'm like, I'm not trying to be mean enough. I was like, I came back in the PD days, and we're still hazing a little bit and stuff, and joking around. Where now you say one wrong word to some recruit, and they're like, now you're getting counseling before you go there. So, yeah, I definitely miss the fire job. I miss the job itself. I miss the people, but I don't miss the bullshit or like the long hours. Sometimes, like when I was paying a call, guys, so I'll work a full-time job all day, maybe go home for an hour or two, shower, change, shave, maybe eat lunch or dinner or whatever, and then I'll go to the training all night or go to bed, and then you get a fire call at midnight, then I'm up to 3 or 4 in the morning, I work at 6, and so those moments I don't miss, but the job, one of the best jobs in the world, I'd say firefighting. I loved it, my passion.
Well, I'm sure Howard appreciated everything that you did for them in that surrounding area. When you respond to a fire versus a combat situation, what feels different?
I'd say more when I'm like respond to fire, I'm more calm and relaxed. I'm going to say, fairly safe environment. Shit still could happen. I'm not any medical call, or you can go on fire, get lost, which actually happened one time on a call. But
you mind sharing it?
Oh yeah, it's well, I guess I'll jump on that one real quick. It was a big apartment fire on the east side of Green Bay. It was a huge, long apartment complex, and we were kind of towards the middle where the main fire was at the time, trying to control the fire a little bit. And somebody called in, they thought they saw somebody at the end when the end unit is run by like a window or whatever. Well, we were really close to the crew there, so we dropped our tools, and grabbed a ladder and went down. We went to the second floor and walked into the apartment, and it was like maybe had height of smoke, but it was good enough you can see through it. So me and my 3-person crew, we walk in like, okay, let's all split up, do a quick primary search. So we'll search all the rooms, we'll took one, search like, okay, don't see nothing. So one of the guys even opened the door to the hallways, check the hallway real quick, and it pushed him back with all the heat and smoke push on it. So he slammed it right away, and it got down halfway, smoke in the room. But okay, we still, fairly walk around, we still communicate with each other, let's all split up rooms again, rotate rooms, and we'll search one more time. So we do that, and then after that, my captain, he goes, let me check the hallway one more time, just to make sure, because we need a good look at it, in case he tried running downstairs, and collapse something. Open up, and that time open up, the door pushed right open, no door open, like half a second, straight floor to ceiling, smoke and heat. And the party complex is like a long hallway coming in kind of in the unit, with all the bathroom rooms were. Then the kitchen living room, I was in the living room area, those two were down like in the hallway area. So when I hit the ground, my tool was straight the wall, hit some trimming, and part of that fell off my knee, took a nail or screw or whatever. So that felt great. I'm in this room all by myself, I can't see nothing at all. Like the patio was like me, like them away, like you think you'd be able to see it, but there's so much smoke, I couldn't see light from the patio anymore, so I had no clue where I was. And those two guys, they tried to come to find me, and they were doing search going through down the hallway. They thought the first door they hit was the entrance to the living room. They go circle the room, couldn't find a way out. Circle the room again. They found the window. So the captain told the guy, like, hey, if we come back around and find his window, we're popping his window, we're jumping. Well, lucky they finally came on the last time. They actually found the doorway. They came out around to us and then found where I was. So
What level is this at again?
this is the second story.
Okay.
And the whole time our chief is outside watching, and he sees the whole thing full of smoke to the ground. He's like, how are these idiots doing there? Kind of like wondering what's going on. So the one and only time I ever got lost in the fire. It is some scary shit.
I can't imagine.
Because you go in a room that you see perfectly clear through, and then a second later, not a single thing, and you're in there, you're mapping your way out, or you see kind of know your ways, and then but then that smoke just throws like a concussion grenade, it just fuses the shit out of you.
Man. No, I can't imagine. Can't imagine. Looking back on 20 years of service, what are you most proud of?
I'm more proud of that I did stick through and did the full 20. Because the way it kind of worked out for me too, almost every time I re-enlisted, I was on deployment. So then I had the tax free bonus every time. So I'm like, well, you're an idiot, don't do this, So I had been going I was doing that goal 3 years in case I did finally say, nope, I had enough, I want to go. I can just do it 3 years out of the full 6. And I did shoot myself in the foot a couple times. So I'm like, I'll wait for a bonus, wait, and I wait too long. So I re-enlist, for a smaller bonus, not that bigger one, but I'm definitely stuck it through because I actually had a guy at the fire department back in the day. He was in the guard for a while. He got out after 6-8 years, whatever it was he did, and he regressed big time. Yeah. So then one time we're at the station shooting the shit, I'm like, I don't know, my enlist is coming. I don't know if I'm going to re-enlist or not. I was like, unless you dead, and I was like, I'll come and I'll kick your fucking ass if you don't do your 20 years. Okay, I guess I'll do 20 then. So, I'm definitely glad I stuck it up and hit the 20. And the benefits, they're amazing. So it's great to have those there.
What did service teach you about leadership that you carry into your life today?
It's more being there for your crew, and your guys and stuff, and being able to help them as much as you can, and set the example and kind of lead the ways. The biggest leadership skills I got out of it.
Yeah. It's important. Good leaders are important and sometimes hard to find.
Oh, yeah.
Were there moments where it all felt heavy, and how did you push through them?
Yeah, there was a lot of times it felt heavy, where things just suck, and you get down on yourself. And this guy, I remember this guy drive on, don't quit. And this guy really sucked because this day sucks doesn't mean the next day is going to suck, or just you got to get through it, and put it behind you and just drive on. You can't let those hard days beat you.
Yeah. You rely on your battles ever at all?
Oh, yeah. I'm still in contact with a lot of guys. Like, I had one on with Hersey the other day. He's messaged me, or Magnus, he messages me every now and then.
Yeah.
We shoot the shit, or
Victor Magnus, he might be our next
we're getting spoiler.
Yeah. Might be episode 13, so
perfect.
Yeah. No, mate. Excellent guy.
Yeah, he's great.
Unbelievable.
He reaches out to me every now and then, we shoot the shit, I was never one of his soldiers, but still, we served together in 127 for a while, so it's
still family.
Yeah.
Still family. Your grandfather served in World War II. You served in Iraq. What does that generational service mean to you now?
It means quite a lot to me, especially since our family, we do have a fair amount of military history, but a lot of them didn't serve a long period of time. Or like my uncle, my mom's brother, he back in the day, I think World War II as well, he joined in the army right away. But then he got sent back home, right? Because he had to take care of the family farm, so he got hardship, released and all that. So he wasn't in for long. And I had a couple other uncles that served, or like my dad had a cousin served in Vietnam and he died. And his name's on the wall, so we go see every now and then. So there's not like a whole lot of us had like true big combat experience or like big military history, but it's cool that I get to carry the family name on. And another cool thing too, like you see my license plate in the car, it says Andy Jr. Well, in World War II, everybody called my grandpa Andy, short for Anderson. Well, unknowing that, my guys, my first deployment, they start calling me Andy, short for Anderson, So I'm like, you guys know my grandpa started World War II and they called him Andy? Now you're calling me Andy? So when I got back, I'm like, I got to throw Andy Jr. in the license plate. I'm carrying his name on, and it's just perfect fitting. So it's cool to carry that family history in the name.
Good for you. Absolutely. It's funny how things come together at times.
Yeah.
Man, if you could sit down with your grandfather today, what would you tell him about your journey?
Oh, I'll love to sit down and share the stories, and then kind of bounce, how you sort of experience around together. Because I don't know his full intent of like his missions, on World War II. I know he was in Germany because as a kid he had a German flag making on his fridge. And I was like, hey, I got that on the fridge, like, well, I started World War II, and fighting the Nazis up into this city, that city, so I looked up some of his unit history, and there are reports like them landing in Italy, working their way up in the Lost Battalion. Have you ever heard of that mission? Part of his unit was part of that, but I don't know if he was for sure. I know.
Man.
So that's the stuff. He took some of the stories with him when he passed away in 2003, and then he never got to see me serve. I enlisted 6 months after he passed. So, and then my grandma, when she was still alive, she was very protective of all of his stuff. Like she had like a half-ass shadow box with some of his awards, and I saw him. He had a Navistar and a combat infantry badge, but she wouldn't let me see like nothing else, And once she passed, we have more access to it. But I just haven't had time to really dig through it, and this is kind of hard, to get the memories back, grandma and grandpa. So it's hopefully someday I'll do some more digging and hopefully find his Bronze Star, award certificates and see exactly what he did, why he earned it, as a part of first class.
Yeah.
But a couple of stories, like I said, he did share, it's just like, it's phenomenal stuff they went through back then.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I just greatest generation. Mm-hmm. It's hard to find the right words to make sure you're giving the right credit for everything that they, at home and abroad, everything they did during that time. 2024 missions of honor in the Freedom to Liberty retreats. Tell us about your experience with that, being on the first ever Freedom to Liberty retreat in 2024 with, I believe, about 61 other GWOT veterans, 3.5 days in New York City. Tell us about your time there.
Man, that was a great experience. I'm glad I got to be part of the first one. At first, I didn't make the initial cut. So I got the phone call, like, you can make it, like, all right, I'll try it next year, pick captain again. And then like, a week later, I called me like, hey, man, I got to drop off, so like, you're next on the list. Like, oh, sweet, like, you do the first one, because every year back home in Howard, I do a 9/11 memorial event where I used to run it, but now I might as well be able to rock it now. 11 miles downtown Green Bay and back. So I do that every year because at the fire station, we have a small piece of I-beam from the World Trade Center. And Green Bay used to have a piece of I-beam on display too at the museum now, so we used to do it there and back, perfect 11 miles. So it's cool that I got to go there and be part of it, because I actually always wanted to go back there, because I was in New York as a kid, like 5, 6, 7. I barely remember any of it. But we had a picture of, it was actually on the news story.
Yes.
Of me and my family on top of the World Trade Center back in the day, on that observation deck. And I said, I wish I would remember that, but I don't have very little recollection of remembrance of that. So it's cool to go back now and just, it's just so somber being there in that area. There's not all the things that happen right in that one area, and this how the whole world changed from there. And then like meeting the Tim Brown, Will Jamil, and Patty, all those guys, hearing their stories was just like, I know our stories are like amazing, but like hear like, holy shit, like that's hard shit to do. I'm glad.
Speechless.
And we get to meet Will in here in a couple months. So
yeah.
I told my parents, like, you guys are coming with, you guys got to meet him.
I'm good.
And one of my former fire chiefs, she actually went to Ground Zero after 9/11, having helped out. So she actually, I told her about it, she's like, yeah, I'll come with y'all and meet him, I don't think she didn't get much work on the site. She more like for more support and counseling and stuff like that, but yeah, she was still there. So I told her, well, like, you got to come meet Will. Like, his story is amazing.
Now, that would be great. I can't wait. We'll be there with you as well, too. All their stories and that's kind of the hardest part, listening to them. You hit it on the head, like when you hear their story and what they, because we all watched, right? Mm-hmm. We all watched that day all across the world. And when you hear their stories of people that were literally there, literally buried, for 12, 13 hours, I believe Will Jimeno, one of 20 survivors, I think that was Paul, like, it's just like, yeah, and I didn't do really, but they're so humble, they're so respectful, they're so appreciative of what we did after the fact, and you're sitting here like, do you realize what you did?
Yeah, it kind of goes both ways.
Yeah.
They share their story with us, we're like, holy shit, like, they have so much mad respect, and pride for them, and then we share our story with them, and it's the same way, straight back to us, and like, it's just, and then the thing too, like, when you watch the World Trade Center movie that made up of those stories, like how accurate that movie actually was, and I'm glad I watched it, many times before I went to hear a story, because it just helps so much piece the story together, and just it makes it hits you harder,
yeah.
he actually put that visual more to your mind what he went through and experienced. It's just
I'm glad they worked all the producers, directors, and all that actually worked with the individuals that were there to make that video. And it's kind of starstruck when I see them. I'll be honest with you.
Oh yeah, same here.
I don't know how they don't walk through New York City and everyone knows who they are.
Or even like Tim Brown, you see him every now and then. He goes back to Harris Pub. You know, it's like I don't know. I think it'd be kind of hard to go back to that same area again. But you see Tim Brown every now and then. He's at the pub right down the street nowhere.
Yeah.
So it's like there's more power to you. That's
crazy.
Awesome.
Unbelievable. Our dream team. Yep. I always ask individuals that have gone on our Freedom to Liberty retreats. It's something that we're continuing to grow. Now open statewide. We have 2 retreats planned for this year. Because I see a commonality with veterans of all service eras in honor flights, or in this case, the Freedom to Liberty retreat. Many are hesitant on going, saying, I don't deserve to go. I'm going to save it for someone else. What would you say to them with you have been on that, being on one of those flights, doing your time? What would you say to them?
I'd say no matter what, sign up for it. Just do it. It's such an amazing experience, a trip. And even like outside of like doing the Mission of Honor stuff, like the museum, and stuff like that. These things going around to see the city, and like Francis Tavern, just history there of George Washington. It's like, holy shit, we're in the same building George Washington like walked through. It's like just so cool, and this experience. And then it was last year out in Virginia. I was working at a race with my buddy's race team, the Wounded Veteran race team, and I told him, like, you and your brother got to sign up for this, and he signed up for it. I haven't asked him if he got the phone call yet or not, but I'm like, you and your brother need to sign up for it. His brother's kind of like, like you're saying, he's like, well, I don't deserve it, or like, let somebody else go, but, and my buddy, he signed up for it, but he showed me his race schedule. I was like, well, this is going to be a busy ass year if I guess, like, for one of these trips, and then all his races he has lined up, so I have to contact him soon to see if he made the list or not.
Yeah.
I hope he does, because I think he would enjoy the trip.
Yeah, absolutely. It's worth it. It's absolutely worth it. And I think for many too, that camaraderie piece, when we all get together, I think it's something that when you get out, many miss or don't really realize the importance of that. When you're in and then you get out and it's kind of, you're looking around and you find that piece again, it's important.
Well, it's like our group, we do the monthly breakfast get-togethers, or this, hey, so-and-so's got like this charity event going on, like, oh, let's go meet up, and do whatever. Or,
it's always great seeing everyone come around.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Names that you would like to say out loud of fallen service members or firefighters? Do you have any?
I got a whole bunch. It
is up to you. I believe it was Chris that mentioned it during the first 2024 retreat, the importance of saying, their names, continuing to say them out loud so we never forget. Not here to push you. It is completely up to you if there's any that you wanted to share.
Well, one fitting one, actually, I'll start with him first. Starting first class, Josh Haas. He's was originally part of Ranger Battalion. Then he came down with cancer a few years ago, and sadly, cancer took him, and he didn't have much fight with it. It just happened so fast, quick, and took his life. So he was Ranger Battalion. Then he came over to HAC 127 Recon. That's how I got to know him. And phenomenal guy, stand-up guy. Like, you first came to I'm like, holy shit, we got like a real life, like a real Ranger. Here I'm like, this guy does nothing to do with me, and nice to know him, and I became great friends. And actually, I think yesterday or today is actually the anniversary of his passing, like 7 years ago. So that's the sad, emotional one, because he's one of the cancer ones. But more for comment wise, there's 2 guys I went to high school with. Is PFC Hunt. He's part of 82nd Airborne. I think he got ejected from a vehicle, and the vehicle pinned him and crushed him. And then another one is Corporal Ross. I think he was some Army Reserve unit, and he got hit by a small arms fire and died at Afghanistan. And then the other names, there's the guys that were actually on deployment with us is Michael Wenling and Andrew Wallace. Right out the gate, we just took over the mission, we're on our own, and they got blown up and they lost their life September 26, 2005. And then one of the harder ones was actually Joe Peck's, because it was his very last mission. He actually volunteered to go on that mission. He's like, you got the option, you can go south in Kuwait and wait to head back home, or you can go mission, and like, right now you're scheduled to go south. Like, no, screw that, I'm going to go to one more mission. At least I'm doing something instead of sitting on a bunk all day in Kuwait. So he went on one more mission, and they're actually on their way back south coming down, and he got hit by an IED and lost his life. So it is very hard. And that one, that was I think August 1st. It's a rough time frame when it happened, because it was like around midnight. So like you look at like websites will say one thing, his grave site says something else. So it's hard to say when it happens, but yeah, those guys I bring them up every year, like the anniversaries. I always like my leg. I got a POW fallen soldier tattoo on my leg. The guy's name's listed on there. You remember them and stuff. It's those ones is just every year. It just never gets easy, And like our guys from 1 to 7th, every year they do a bike memorial ride, and they go visit the graves of Wendley and Wallace and Joe Peck in those days, and go pay respect and stuff like that. So it's very cool that those guys do that. Then for like the fire side, the only two that really big ones I think of is Green Bay firefighter Arnie Wolf, who him and his partner went inside a fire, go to a surge, and so happened the floor collapsed on him on top of a wall. Well, his partner went one way and then he went another way, and he got pinned in the closet, if I remember correctly, and succumbed to the heat and the fire and lost his life. And that was right before I became a firefighter, so that kind of sticks with me, as I get into it. Then another one here more locally, just down the road here downtown, was Mitch Lundgaard from Appleton. They responded to a normal, med call, and the guy had a gun on him and just went crazy and just, shot him. And it was just stuff like that, just his funeral. I actually got to go to his funeral, and it was amazing to see how many different departments from around the whole state, even like Illinois, Minnesota and stuff came in with that big church over here just north of the Tim Bradley Stadium. I forget the name of it.
Okay.
But we had the whole parking lot just full of emergency vehicles.
Yeah.
And it was just, that's all you see for days, or just fire trucks, police cars and ambulances. And it was just amazing to see all the support come on, remember and honor,
Absolutely.
Someone like that. So it's those guys' names, like every year, like, so the anniversary, like I always wear these bracelets every day, and even when he did that race in Virginia, because it was a 6-hour race, my buddy, because he's from 1 to 7, he didn't know one of them well, Joe Peck, but he remembers them every time he does races. So I think he usually has a sticker on his car, but because it was a bigger race, he didn't have it on his car or whatever. But on our pit stop, we had signs up, says in honor of Wendley Wallace and Joe Peck. So being one of his picture members, I told him, because he was riding the other car, I'm like, just I got all these 3 guys with me, and every 2 hours I'll switch up the bracelets so they're all come on the pit stop with us. So
that's awesome.
Kind of cool that we honor them yet, through racing.
Absolutely. Appreciate you sharing those names.
Oh yeah, like there's more, but there's still the bigger ones that I.
Yeah. Are there any more you want to say out loud at them?
Well, I guess there's some to like Jason, from our retreat, that sadly came to suicide, and countless other ones like Van Eppern we had, a couple years ago, and it's hard every year doing that march up in Green Bay every year in Veterans Day weekend, because now like shit, I know half the names on that shirt now, or half those boots on the trail, it's just so hard to do that, it's just seeing all the guys and knowing that some of the guys, like, you could have been there and helped them, or just overlooked it, and then you're like, oh shit, now I should have reached out to him that day, or been there for him more. And sucks, but
no, appreciate you sharing those names. And you raised a very, very important fact. Always important to check up on your battles. And for those that may be going through a difficult time, don't ever forget that family that you have. I think that's one thing I really, with the military family, no matter what time of day you call, they're going to pick up.
Yeah,
they're going to be there for you. And don't ever forget that. So I end with this question. I'm going to adjust yours a little bit though. But if a 17-year-old today was thinking about enlisting like you did, what would you tell them?
They're even remotely thinking about joining any kind of branch of the military, I'd highly recommend do it right away at 17, especially if you're going guard, because your clock starts then right away and you start counting the time. So I had another buddy, he waited till he was like 35 or he joined, and I'm like, dude, he could be almost retired by now if he would join right away. And he's like, I know, I always thought about it and just pushed it off, and so I was giving shit. He's a warrant officer now, but he's still serving. I'm like, dude, I'm retired. Look at me now. I'm like, I'm enjoying life, but you're still serving, so it sucks for him. But yeah, anyone 17 that they're even remotely, even at 17, to start talking to the recruiters and try to figure out what branch you want to go, what job skill, try to find what fits best for you, because obviously I'm going to be biased. The Army National Guard, it's the way to go. This because of the benefits, and you start the clock right away when you first enlist. Where if you went Marines or Air Force, Army right away, active duty, well, they're seeing where they thumb up your ass for a year, not counting your time yet, and wasting time. So just get in right away, get that training and experience right away. Like with us, go to RSP program right away, start getting trained, and get the speed. So that's the way to go.
Again, we're here with Trevor Anderson, Global War on Terror veteran. Some men serve and some men become the very definition of service. a 17-year-old kid from a small town in Wisconsin, raised on stories of a grandfather who fought in World War II, who didn't just admire that legacy, he chose to live it. Through the dust of Iraq, through nights where the only thing louder than the silence was the sound of rounds cracking overhead. Through a moment on May 14, 2006, when everything could have been taken in an instant. But it wasn't, because of courage, because of brotherhood, because when it mattered most, he stood his ground. And that's the part people don't always see. It's not just the firefight, it's not just the uniform, it's the lifetime of answering the call over and over again. When the country needed him overseas, he went. When the nation needed him at home, he stepped forward. And when others were running away from danger, he ran straight into it. That's not just duty, that's sacrifice, that's honor, that's what it means to carry the weight of something bigger than yourself. So today, we don't just say thank you, we stand a little taller, we remember a little deeper, and we honor a life that never stopped serving, not for recognition, not for applause, but for the man to his left and the man to his right, and for a country worth fighting for. Because freedom isn't just something we have, it's something men and women like him choose to protect again and again. And because of that, it endures. This has been Answering the Call, a life of service on two fronts on the Preserving Freedom podcast with Army veteran Trevor Anderson. I'm your host, Jason Foster, and I remind you, freedom isn't just something we celebrate, it's something we preserve every single day. Keep honoring, keep believing, and standing proud, because damn, it's a great day to be an American.
Hell yeah.
Appreciate you, brother.
You too.
Thank you.